had mechanical issues with my car. So I had to go to this shop and get some repairs. And so I'm sitting down, waiting for my car to get fixed. And right across from me, just a few feet away, is the owner of the business. So I'm thinking to myself, I said, Lord, it's just him and me. I said, Lord, how do I talk to him about Jesus? And I just, since I've been there before, I said, sir, the last time I was here, did I talk to you about Jesus? And he said, maybe. He was a nice guy. And so we started getting into this conversation about Jesus and everything. And I came to find out that he's a Christian. So you know where I'm going with this. He told me he's accepted Christ. He believes in the Bible and Jesus. It's okay. So what do you think I brought the conversation around to? The Sabbath. Well, I said, sir, the spiel. We went over this already. I gave him my Sabbath canvas. I asked him who wrote the Bible, yada, yada, yada. I asked him who wrote the Ten Commandments, blah, blah, blah. And I was shocked at his answers. This man, he was so intelligent, I had to ask him 2 times. I said, how do you know all of this? I asked him who wrote the commandments. God. A lot of people I talk to, they say Moses. No, for real, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm like, how do you know all of this? So I'm asking him. I said, what do you think about the Sabbath? Is it important? He said, oh, yeah. I asked him, what day is the Sabbath? What day is the 7th day? He said, oh, yeah, Saturday. Oh, wow. I said, man, you know all of this? He said, because so many people say the 7th day is Sunday. He said, oh, wow, you know that Saturday is the 7th day? He said, yeah, the calendar's right there. Oh, he pointed the calendar's right there on the wall. I was like, oh, okay. So we're talking now. And he said, well, listen, I have heard a different perspective from yours. Very nice conversation. He says, I have heard that, the Lord's day is Sunday. I said, oh, okay. So I said to him, I used the same word he used. He said, perspective. I said, it's okay to have a perspective. That's okay. I said, what you've heard is that the Lord's day is Sunday. I said, sir, I'll try to be as polite as I can. I said, sir, can you show me that from the Bible? He says, no. I'm not making this up. He said, no, can't do it. And I said, okay, keep going. He says, well, there's another perspective. I said, at this point in the conversation, I'm not exaggerating. He said, you're probably going to tell me, you're probably going to ask me if it's in the Bible. I said, yep. He figured it out real quick because I told him that I just used the Bible. So he said, there's another perspective. He said, I've heard that Jesus is the Sabbath. Oh, yeah, this is a new one. So I said, it's okay to have a perspective. I said, sir, can you show me that in the Bible? He said, no. Now I'm shocked. I said, wow, how do you know all of this? I said, what makes you say all this? He said, and I quote, this is what he told me, right there in Colville. He said, I simply want to follow the truth. That's what he told me. At the end of our conversation talking about the Sabbath, he says, and I quote, I agree with everything you said about the Sabbath. That's what he told me. The only thing he had a question on was whether about this new moon business, Sabbath. But he says, I agree with everything you said about the Sabbath being the 7th day. And then he said, well, I'll just keep going to church on Sunday and Saturday to be safe. I don't know what, that's what he told me. I don't know what that way. So he said, look at how good God is. I believe he wants truth. He said, you know what? You Adventists, you have a good health message. He said, I used to have one of your cookbooks on my shelf, but someone took it and never returned it. He said, could you bring me one of those? I said, oh, yes. I said, I'll get you that book. And so a couple of days later, I returned with a cookbook and the Great Controversy. And the Steps to Christ. Woo, listen here. If you haven't read Steps to Christ in a while, There's a chapter called What to Do with Doubt, chapter 12. Woo, read that one. Isn't God good? So good.